Every time you tell me something, I figure that you're lying. Ooh, it's almost like you faking. Oh yeah, yeah, I know you're lying, but you sound excited, and you know.
There's a Boy in the Girl's Bathroom by Louise Sacker is a 1987 children's book about a mean, unlikable boy named Bradley Chalkers, who slowly becomes nice after a caring guidance counselor named Carla teaches him to like himself. I can actually relate a lot to the kid, and this book kind of hits me right in the feels. The title refers to a recurring joke about boys entering the girl's bathroom by mistake, and at one point a girl enters the boy's bathroom, but it's not nearly as important to the story as the title would make it seem. If I were to give it a title more suiting of the plot, I might call it The Boy Who Couldn't Smile, as this would actually describe a main facet of the character. He doesn't know how to smile properly. He isn't happy enough to smile naturally, and he tries to smile as a performance, but he doesn't understand how, and it comes off looking weird. Today, Louise Sacker is probably best known for writing the 1998 surreal reform school drama Holes, which in 2003 was adapted into a movie starring Shia LaBeouf. Back in the 90s, he was popular for his Wayside School series, which was kind of about a public school from the Twilight Zone, and the kids forced to contend with the bizarre supernatural goings-ons and Seinfeld-like coincidences. These books frequently shift tone between scary, funny, and just plain weird. So this is a guy who's a genre author, who has basically made his career off of the weird and the provocative. There's a Boy in the Girl's Bathroom, on the other hand, is firmly grounded in reality, with realistic kids facing realistic drama in a realistic setting. This doesn't necessarily lead to a bad book, but it does make for some awkward reading, and I can understand why it's not his most popular work. The book came out in a time long before Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, which really pushed the boundaries on what book lengths children were expected to be able to handle. As a result of the success of Harry Potter, publishers have really amped up the size and quality of the books marketed to children. This has become the status quo of children's fiction, which makes a lot of the pre-Harry Potter books feel very rudimentary. This is absolutely the case of There's a Boy in the Girl's Bathroom, which combines with the utter mundaneness of the book to make a plot that feels like it should be incredibly boring. However, it is actually a pretty strong psychological character drama. Credit to Louise Sacker's writing ability that he was able to convey so much about this one troubled kid in such a rudimentary work. Bradley's main character trait is that he's unlikable, which could easily make him unlikable to read about, but he's actually very carefully constructed to be sympathetic. It's emphasized that he's very sensitive, insecure, and has some trouble grasping common concepts. So he surrounds himself with a shield of bitterness, hostility, and rampant lies. When he's alone in his room, he opens up to his imaginary friends, personas he projects onto animal figurines. And that's where we can see his sensitive side. I think it's highly probable that Bradley was supposed to be autistic. I'm not saying Louise Sacker had that label in his head when he wrote it, or that this was supposed to be about a kid with a mental disorder, but I think when he crafted this character off of actual traits that kids may have, and put together Bradley's psyche, he unknowingly but accurately modeled him on actual autistic kids. As someone on the autistic spectrum, I can relate so hard to this kid, so it actually feels deeply impactful to read about Carla helping him. I think I have some of Bradley's issues where I don't really like myself, so Carla helping him to like himself is actually very therapeutic for me as the reader. It really hits me right in the feels. When we meet Bradley, he's a disaster. He's mean to everyone, kids don't like him because he's weird in such a way that they find him disturbing, and he greets new kid Jeff's offer of friendship with a threat to spit on him if he doesn't pay up. And then there's the lies. He lies all the time. Reading this book is kind of tricky because it's hard to tell when the protagonist is actually telling the truth. It's not that he's an unreliable narrator, because the book doesn't have a narrator. It's just a series of actions and dialogue, and he contradicts himself and common sense constantly. He'd be the most annoying person to actually hang out with. He's a total mess. In about 30 years, he'd turn into Trump. Jeff does the best he can to extend the gift of friendship, but Bradley just acts like a jerk to him, and he eventually gives up. Bradley is kind of disappointed, but he accepts it because everyone gives up on him. His classmates give up on him, his teachers give up on him, his father gives up on him, and his mother is almost ready to give up on him too. And then the school's new guidance counselor, Carla, comes in. She recognizes that there's a good kid in there, and she teases it out of him by giving him a safe space and comforting words. He does his usual shtick of pushing people away, but she tolerates his jerkish behavior and finds ways to make him feel secure. When he finally drops his guard a fraction, she can indirectly talk about his issues until he feels comfortable enough to drop his guard completely and be frank. As part of this process, she lends him a book called My Parents Didn't Steal an Elephant, which seems to be more like Louise Sacker's usual surreal fare. It seems to be about a kid whose parents are arrested for stealing an elephant from the zoo, the kid having to live with his aunt and uncle, them doing mysterious things, and I think the implication is that the kid himself is the elephant? Maybe? It's ambiguous enough to get Bradley thinking in ways he usually avoids, and that's the whole point. It might be an allusion to the author's own writing style, and implying that his books are good because they get kids thinking. In and around this, Bradley interacts with Jeff and a girl named Colleen. They have a stupid girls have cooties conflict that ends in a fight. Bradley tries to push Colleen down, and in return she slugs him, which makes him greatly respect her. However, Bradley's mom is upset. Bradley doesn't want to admit that he started the fight, and he says that Jeff slugged him out of nowhere. This has the unexpected consequence of boosting Jeff's reputation and making the school's real bullies unafraid of Bradley. Stoop kids afraid to leave a stoop. Now Bradley's life is hell, and it's up to Carla to repair their relationships. There's a lot of positive psychological healing. Unfortunately, the moral crusaders of the PTA find Carla very threatening to their authority over their children, and they make the school fire her. Having limited time, Carla does what she can to make Bradley's situation stable by making sure that Jeff and Colleen will support him as friends. Bradley reacts very poorly to the news that she's leaving, but he eventually finds the strength to act responsibly for once. In her absence, he does what she would want of him and makes friends with Jeff and Colleen. By the book's end, he's on the right track. The book is a very strong psychological drama, even as it is a rudimentary kids' book. However, the rudimentary nature does give it the unfortunate quality of mostly not having fleshed out characters. Bradley himself is brilliant, but Jeff and Colleen are more or less just a stereotypical boy and a stereotypical girl. I have to say that a modern book with more room for storytelling would most likely flesh them out better. When I was a kid, I was attracted to the book because the title made it sound queer. I wasn't super aware of the ideas of being gay and pushing gender conceptions, but I knew what I liked, and as an adult I can recognize this as an attraction to queerness. The social construct of gendered bathrooms as some unbreakable social rule is beaten into our heads as kids, and a kid violating this has some queerness to it. And as a kid, I was satisfied by what it offered. The context is that one time Jeff walks into the girls' bathroom by mistake, gets embarrassed, and then runs out. He mentions it to Bradley, who misunderstands and immediately lies that he too goes into girls' bathrooms all the time to scare girls. And he is now impressed that Jeff has demonstrated that he shares this cool trait with him. He wants to go do it with Jeff, and Jeff just finds excuses not to do it. The idea sticks with Bradley because he is curious what girls' bathrooms are like, and he imagines that the gender segregation means that bathrooms are fundamentally different, because girls have weird alien anatomy, and because he's sure that girls get special treatment. And he eventually learns that it's almost exactly the same when he walks into the wrong bathroom himself. The whole thing humorously mocks the social construct of gender-segregated bathrooms. This plot thread is especially relevant today when there's such a frenzy about the idea of transgender people being allowed in the bathroom that matches their gender identification. It's really stupid that bathrooms are segregated at all. We're all just people. The idea that women are especially vulnerable and men especially dangerous in there is itself a cultural construct with roots in racism. During Jim Crow racial segregation, black people were given a single bathroom for both men and women. That was as much a cultural construct as the wackiness in There's a Boy in the Girl's Bathroom. It really doesn't deserve to be in the title, though. I think a lot of children's books back then had titles made from short, provocative quotes, from more flamboyant scenes, to be illustrated on the cover to sell the book completely out of context. One of my favorite books as a kid was The Chicken Doesn't Skate by Gordon Corman, which had a cover depicting a chicken apparently attempting to play hockey and failing because it's a chicken. In actuality, the book was about a boy's science project on the life cycle of a chicken being turned upside down by a glass that turns the chicken into a pet. There is a brief scene about it being a good luck charm for a hockey team, and the coach reminding the team that they won on their own merits, that the chicken doesn't skate. But the book seems to represent itself as about a hockey-playing chicken. It's stupid. Aside from bathroom antics, the whole boy-girl segregation construct is poked at, and the book has some decent twisting of gender roles. Bradley likes spending time with girls, but isn't given the opportunity to express that beyond picking fights with Colleen, until Colleen invites him to her party, and then he makes friends with girls, and plays with things gendered feminine just fine. Jeff is fine receiving a prize intended for girls. Bradley's whole thing of talking to his animals is kind of a stereotypical feminine thing, and Colleen is unexpectedly good in a fight. It is very good from a feminist perspective. I would recommend this book to anyone interested. It's not everyone's cup of tea, but it meant something to me as a kid, and as an adult, it really does hit me right in the feels.